All right, I'm going to continue today with chapter. What chapter is it? Chapter 16 from Techniques of My Musical Language. Also there. And specifically, we're going to look at some examples that Messiaen provides for mode 2, which we looked at in more detail a few weeks ago. The construction of mode 2 is an alternating whole, half and whole steps. It's also called the octatonic scale, and it's one of the modes of limited transposition. It's all right, we talked a lot about that last time, but here Messiaen is talking about, let me dig this up. So in these examples here, right, Messiaen calls these cadential formula, cadential patterns associated with the second mode. So I'm going to go through each of these, or at least a couple of them, and talk through how they're put together, what are some of the attributes of them, how they utilize the mode, and what is it about the gesture that might be cadential, because we know that when Messiaen says cadence, he doesn't mean 1-5-1. He actually means the tritone. So we'll look at that. We'll look at why Messiaen thinks, or what Messiaen accomplishes with these gestures, because there's some voice leading behind them. There's some characteristics that I think are consistent in all of the examples that tie them together, beyond them simply being in a section that Messiaen calls cadential. If you look at the text, these are just the examples here, but if you look at the text, this is one of those sections where Messiaen isn't really forthcoming. He calls them cadential, and then he says, here's 4 examples. He kind of leaves it at that. It's not one of those sections where he goes into a great deal of detail explaining what he thinks. He does talk about the use of the tritone as a cadence in an earlier chapter, in chapter 7, where he's talking about melodic constructs. But here we're kind of on our own. So I think it's up to us to sort of play through, listen, mark up. I'm still delighted by my ability to figure out how to do this. My screen is a little bit further away than it was last time, so I can't reach over and drag the thing around. But, you know, you can see what it is here, and I can draw on it. Oops, I said I could draw on it. There we go. That's me, and here's Messiaen. Right? And we are hanging out listening to birds. Or whales. I'm more of a whale. There you go. That's good. That's worth the price of admission. All right, so if we jump over here, let's look at the first example. Get this out of the way here. So this is example 321. What happens if I do this? Can you? That looks good too. So we're going to look at this one here, 321. Excuse me. Left hand. So the first thing to note here is the use of the augmented rhythm, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can see the descending tritone, from the E flat to the A. This is actually derived from the second mode, first transposition. First transposition here, which you can see clearly articulated in the left hand. The first transposition starts on C natural, C, D flat, E, F sharp, G, A, B flat. And in the left hand, you can see that he's got these chords. The top two notes of them are the second mode, starting on different degrees. The top note starting on E natural, which is the fourth degree of the scale, E, F sharp, G. The modes are, actually up here, this is an example where he took the second mode and created a bunch of chords starting on, it's the same that you've got here, E, F sharp, G, E, F sharp, G, and then C, D flat, E, C, D flat, E, flat. Interesting here is you've got a common B flat. So we come to rest on this chord, right? And if I clean up my mess here a little bit, you can see that we have a B flat, E flat, G, and A. So that is really quite straightforward. It's an E flat major chord with the A here, and A is the tritone up from the root. So you have a major chord plus the tritone as the, do we dare call it the tonic? I'm not going to call it the tonic, but it is the ending point of the cadence. Right? Now we have something different, something similar in example 322. So paying attention to the resting chord, the chord at the end, but here, right. So first off, I hope you can hear in the this is actually the second transposition of the scale, which starts on the C sharp. I've written these down, don't worry, I haven't memorized these. I do think it was very important to learn to improvise in these modes, and it's something I'm doing off on the side. Maybe towards the end of the summer I'll have built up some chops, but you can see how all of Messiaen's music is specifically derived from these scales. Right? This example here, B, A sharp, G sharp. Those are those are taken. Sorry, there's my dogs there. I wonder if I can bring them on camera for everybody. Flip the camera around. There we go. Whoops, that's me. You don't see me. There they are. Look at the little cuties. Here, say hi. That's Baron with the green collar and Isildur with the blue collar. So, where was I? You all are very patient, more patient than I would be. We get back to example 322 here. These notes down in the bottom. The second mode, second transposition, which starts on the C sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, which are your three notes here, B, A, and then E, D, sharp. I'm really banging this point home because, like I was saying before, we had the brief dog break there. The improvisation in these modes and the composition that Messiaen uses is really reliant on these stepwise, or these gestures that move degree by degree through the modes. And it's in the voice leading that we get the characteristic form. So in this example, we have parallel descending statements. And again, at the end here, when we resolve, we've got the G sharp, the C sharp, F natural, A, and then that comes down here. So we have G sharp, B, E, A sharp. So that's, of course, an E major scale chord, right, with an A sharp. And the A sharp is the tritone from the root, which is E here. Now that's a very characteristic voicing of the chord. But if we reduce it down, so we're seeing a pattern here of a common tone, right? The B flat here, and the G sharp here, resolving up to an A sharp, and then stepwise motion through the mode, ending on a major chord with a tritone. Right? I think those are clear patterns that are consistent in these examples. Let me just do this other one, 323, for the last one. This is the third transposition of the second mode, which begins on the D natural, right? So the first transposition started on the C to C sharp to D sharp. Sorry, C to D flat to E flat. Second transposition starts on C sharp to D natural to E, and then the third transposition starts on D to E flat to E, and then for the fourth transposition, we end up back on the third degree of the first transposition, which is why it's a mode of limited transposition. Here, that is the fourth, sixth, and seventh degree of the mode in the right hand over this chord. And then here in B is the same, but transposed down a step, and then you can see that there's a little bit of magic with the elongation of the preparation for the cadence. Again, it's the tritone here is expressed harmonically. But if we look at the chord that remains, so the A, B, D, I'm going to include the F because it's held, and the G, right? A, B, D, F, G. I'm reading that as a D major chord with a sixth, which is very... and then with the G sharp, which is the tritone of the root over D. D to G sharp is our tritone. And there you go, Bob's your uncle. Stepwise motion, a consistent chord note, in this case the F sharp. Stepwise motion. of chords formed by parallel degrees of the scale of the mode. And then this melodic device over it. So those are three examples using the first, second, and third transposition of the second mode. Now, just to wrap things up, I thought I would come down here and bang my way through one of these examples. This one here, because in the right hand here, you have the same mode, mode 2, with your C, A, B flat, F sharp, D flat, E. And then the left hand, F sharp, E, E flat, is the same mode. And there you have it. You can take this and write your own quartet for the end of time using these straightforward techniques of modal manipulation. I am, of course, kidding. The way the Messiaen uses these fundamental building blocks of the characteristic attributes of the modes combined with the processes of rhythmic augmentation and diminution results in this marvelous sort of evocative music. So next time we'll be looking at mode 3, and I think that may be the last of the modes that we look at specifically, because once we get into modes 4, 5, 6, and 7, Messiaen brushes through them. He's not as interested in them, I think in part because they are, although have fewer available transpositions than the major scale, they start to get, I think, what, six possible transpositions. He's less interested in that. Messiaen is first and foremost interested in the modes because they apply a constraint to the available melodic relationships. But those constraints are, in fact, I think in his music, not limitations, but defining characteristics. The line between material that is constrained and thereby lessened somehow, and then music that is constrained and takes on these very clear specific characteristics is an interesting craft question, right? Messiaen chooses this material because it has particular attributes, and you could look at those attributes as limitations, as things. You don't have the degree of harmonic flexibility that you do when you're writing in sort of common practice Western music, where you can figure out modulation to all kinds of keys and maintain a coherent worldview. And then, of course, once you move outside of that into extended tonality or polytonality, all bets are off. Messiaen is polymodal, and there's a chapter, we're all polymodal, right? We're all on the spectrum of polymodality. In the chapter, I think it's 18, Messiaen talks specifically about polymodality, where you play two different modes at the same time. I've started experimenting. He's very keen on these chords like these, where each voice in the chord is the same mode starting on a different degree. So the first note, and then when you play them, you get these characteristic chords. What he doesn't do in this is provide different kinds of arrangements. Like, what if you were to play the first, second, and third? Let's see if I can do this with my notes here. So the first transposition is C, D flat, E flat. The second transposition is C sharp, D na. And the third begins on D. That's not right. So these sort of crunchy parallel sevenths or ninths, however you want to play them. Starts to sound a little bit like Bartok, or like Ostvolskaya, who I've promised to talk about a bit soon and will. But that is very characteristic of her writing, which is also very modal. So, fidgeting. Let me wrap it up. There again, thank you all for making it this far. I do appreciate the fact that this information is incredibly interesting to me and very inspirational, and I hope that interest and inspiration translates over to you. I know that a lot of you wish that I would edit these better or at all, but I'm just amazed that I've learned how to do this. So we'll move on from there. I tell you what, when I get to 1,000 subscribers, I will start to edit these videos, and then I'll look like Adam Neely with a bunch of clever cuts and much more thoughtful content. But that's up to you. I think I'm close to 700 subscribers right now. So if you have a friend who might be interested in this, subscribe for them, and then let them know. It can be like a little gift. So keep your wits about you, and I'll see you in a few weeks. I'm off on vacation next week. So my goal to get one out a week is already at risk. I know I'm averaging once every 2 to 3 weeks. Gotta get better and do it more often. So good. Thank you all. Drop a comment, drop a question, and I will talk to you soon.